So, this might be the most difficult one yet, because all of the season is good. Yes, even Silver Nemesis. I'm not covering Silver Nemesis today, because it is the weakest by some margin, but people are too harsh on it generally. People say it's just derivative of Remembrance, and while I will not deny the derivativity of Silver Nemesis, its focus is a bit different. This is pretty much the only time I'm going to be talking about Remembrance of the Daleks in this video. Not because it isn't a crown jewel, because it is, but because everything to say about it has already been said. So, just getting that out of the way first. Remembrance of the Daleks definitely has an overarching theme of racism. I mean, you've got black Daleks versus white Daleks, for crying out loud. And it's not exactly subtle. It's also not subtle in its action. It's very action and theme orientated, as opposed to character orientated per se. I mean, I would say the character moments in Remembrance are better, but the overall enigmatic element of who is the Doctor and Ace's faith in the Doctor are more so questioned in Silver Nemesis. Meanwhile, it was just glossed over or left on the cutting room floor in Remembrance of the Daleks. But I do think the Doctor and Ace do get better character moments in Remembrance. More so Ace. I mean, the Doctor does get really good character moments in something else, which I'll bring up soon. By the way, if you're wondering what the crown jewel is, it's whatever Silver Nemesis isn't in this season. So, yeah, it's the whole season, bar Silver Nemesis, but do you know what? It's part of the glue that makes this season great. I would say it's arguably my favourite season. It's difficult to say, because Season 26 and Series 1 are also in my top 3, and they are just that good. And do you know what? Let's speak about the Happiness Patrol now. I don't know how to structure this video. This video is kind of an existential crisis of everything's good. How do I even do this video? Does this video even need to happen? Could I just say Season 25 good and amazing and all that? I don't know. I think I'm having a manic episode. But the Happiness Patrol is really good. Because, you know, why not have Doctor Who overthrow a Thatcher-like government just overnight? Because do you know what? That sort of story is a perfect idea for a three-parter. I do definitely like how in the Happiness Patrol there is a lot of commentary on over-regulation of people's personal lives, which you could see as a metaphor for, well, Section 28 in a sense. It's undeniable that Helen A is Thatcher, let's be real. Overthrowing her government is symbolic of the desire to get rid of Thatcher. The ironic thing is, gay means happy. You know, pink is associated with homosexuality. And for those who aren't in the know, Section 28 was a law Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government introduced, basically forced any mention of homosexuality in schools to be banned. At all. So if a gay kid was like, I'm being bullied because I'm gay, teachers aren't allowed to help. Similar laws are happening in America right now, and it's really scary. That cold irony of the Happiness Patrol just gives it an edge. I think the Candyman just had to be there, just so there's some weird and wackiness. It's a very sickly sweet tone, which is perfect for something that has the Candyman in it, because it's sickly sweet, which emphasizes the sinister goings-on Terra Alpha. Something else in the Happiness Patrol that I don't think people talk about enough is the side characters. Honestly, that one character who was a member of the Happiness Patrol but realized she just wasn't up to Helen A's standards and just went into a depression because she can't authentically be who she is. There is a lot of queer coding in this, and I am loving it. And this is the first time I've really clicked, oh my god, yeah, this story is so gay. I mentioned that the Doctor has really good moments in this one, and just the ending with Helen A is just a perfect stand-down moment of the Doctor, but an even more perfect one is the one everyone goes on about. It's when he manipulates someone to not shoot him when he's at point blank range, and it's just so cool. And everything the Doctor does in this one is just very Doctor-y, and Doctor and Ace's dynamic throughout this whole season is perfect. Ace is my favourite companion. Seven's my favourite Doctor. This is a match made in heaven. They have great chemistry. It's very much like you sense that they are a double act rather than you've got two really good characters with good chemistry. They work together. And that's not necessarily intrinsic to who they are as characters. That's just something else that adds another dimension to when I'm watching the Seventh Doctor run. I do feel like some of its ideas could have been explored more, like the indigenous peoples of Terra Alpha being subjugated to live in the pipes that boiling candy gets flushed through. That they may be explored more in the novelization. That's the thing with the Seventh Doctor era. Like, I feel like its tone works. When it really wants to get dark, it can, but it doesn't get so dark it alienates people. That's the thing. We'll get more into this next season, because next season does have a lot of darker undertones. But so does this. It's just the camp aspect is still a facade. Kind of like how the Doctor's still very much clownish. Now I've brought up clowns, let's go to the circus. Again, I don't know if I can talk about it too much, because I've already talked about it before. That was my problem with Paradise Towers last time. It is in my top 10 favourite stories of all time, like Remembrance of the Daleks. Something that I didn't really talk about too much when I was discussing it with Will is what I really like about the characters. Because we talked about the characters, but only on a surface level. I feel like there were more undertones with the characters. I think it's quite clear. WizKid is the sort of fan that's really enthusiastic, who's fairly young, didn't see it when it was considered good, but still really enjoys it to this day. And Nord is just the kind of fan that's just cringe. Meanwhile, the gods of Ragnarok are the viewing public. If they stop liking it, the show will die. And all the people working for the Psychic Circus are the people working on Doctor who are even thinking, is it even worth it? Something that I didn't get into is how the chief clown is this person that's keeping on going with its destruction and throw people under the bus, sacrificing them in order to get things going. The murder of the people in the Psychic Circus could be how JNT's relationship with Eric Sayward kind of got destroyed. And you could almost see the chief clown himself be almost like a controller of BBC One sort of thing, like Michael Grade or whoever his successor was, I can't remember. And they're trying desperately to do everything in their power to destroy it from within. Captain Cook and Mags, to me, are the Sixth Doctor and Perry. And I never really went into too much detail. I don't know if people actually caught on to that when I brought that detail up in the video Will and I did. Well, Mags is exploited. You can argue that Nicola Bryant was exploited for her body. I guess so is Mags. She's not exactly in a sexually explicit outfit, but she is a werewolf who's being exploited for her abilities. Particularly in the cliffhanger to Part 3 and the opening scenes of Part 4 is where that's really shown. Captain Cook is the Sixth Doctor because he's very egotistical. He really rambles on about all of his adventures as if people are interested, but they're not. He really likes the sound of his own voice. As much as some of us would hate to say that now, that is just how the Sixth Doctor was viewed by everyone. He's also just an unpleasant person to be around. He's just vile. He was also helping out the villains. Could be a very specific nod to Mind Warp. We don't know for sure if the Matrix was fully tampered with or not in that. That may have been something people were complaining about back then. There's so many little moments that elevate The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, because it's actually just a very straight-faced tone. It's only really campy because it's at a circus, and that's what brings not only the lighter-hearted elements out, but also the more sinister tones. I definitely think on this rewatch, I think the Seventh Doctor is very much someone that just wants to investigate the circus because he senses something sinister, but he gets surprised when he's in a trap, which I do feel like is a little out of character, but at the same time, this time it didn't bother me as much. I feel like I could have done better, but at the same time, that's like the only gripe I have with the story. One more thing about it being an allegory for the show itself, which that's not just why I like it. I mean, I liked it when Love and Monsters did it, but I like it more here because not only do I just prefer it when the show gets all kind of depressing. This just explores it in a much more deeper and interesting way. If we ignore the themes and we're just setting, characters, plot, it's great. And I do love the imagery of the Doctor clowning around, because if you cast a clown as the Doctor, expect him to perform at a circus in front of gods from the dawn of time. Love it. I love the 7th Doctor era. But something else about its theme is that, you know, people didn't like screams, like Mel. I mean, Mags is just a companion character. I definitely have projected a lot of Perry onto her, but something about Mel I can project onto her is that she was screaming blood-curdlingly. Understandably, she was seeing something absolutely vicious and vile, something that people would not want to withstand, and then she was muted because she was screaming too much. And I think that's just a really nice little detail. Little moments like that. Little moments like any isolated moment in the Doctor's performance to the Gods of Ragnarok. These little things accumulate, and I really enjoy it. I think using the Daleks to directly explore racism in the 60s, a time within the show's lifetime being used as a historical period piece, I don't think has ever been done before. Utilizing some really camp imagery to contrast the almost fascistic allegory for Thatcherism, and a commentary on the show, which makes the average family these godlike beings with these dark themes and the 7th Doctor era's pantomime camp aesthetics. They're just something really good, and I do feel like the 7th Doctor era is probably the most creative era of the show since the 60s, and I would argue more creative than anything in the new series. I definitely think season 25 was a lot more successful because they threw stuff at the wall, saw what stuck, saw the good from each of the stories, and I'd say Paradise Towers was really a blueprint for how the season would be. Check out the last Crown Jewels for how I talked about Paradise Towers. I mean, Paradise Towers was the most critically acclaimed story of season 24 at the time, and I do think it should be today. But season 25, I definitely think, well, they brought back Stephen Wyatt for a greatest show in the galaxy. And the aesthetics of Paradise Towers also bled into the Happiness Patrol, but, you know, they dialed it up. And, you know, they were confident enough to do the Daleks, and Remembrance is one of the most highly regarded Dalek stories. Silver Nemesis. But yeah, that's what I think about season 25. My camera's about to die. What do you think? It's a brilliant season. Let's discuss more. It's a brilliant season. I've been Matt of Universals, and I'll see you next time for season 26. Something I've previously stated has been my favourite season. Do I still agree? I mean, it's still one of them, but let's see what I'll talk about next time. Goodbye.